Unmotivated employees cost U.S. corporations $450 billion. Let's talk about why. TeamStage reported the 2024 statistics on motivation, and I was so shocked by the cost of unmotivated employees. As you can see, on a global scale, it's costing corporations $550 billion a year, but in the US, it's well over $450 billion in losses. So first, I wanted to understand, why are employees unmotivated? And the most influential factors that I was able to find were leadership and organizational culture. According to business.com, leadership is the number one factor that influences motivation because ultimately the leader sets the tone and has the most access and ability to positively or negatively impact their employees. And according to monster.com, it was reported that 95% of workers are looking for or plan to look for a new job this year. And obviously, with leadership being the primary catalyst in affecting motivation, that really says a lot about how much influence our supervisors and honestly the owners of these corporations have on us as employees. But something that has been helpful for a lot of employees has been social media. It's been a great sounding board for a lot of employees to voice their opinions about their work. And a major theme that I seem to run into, and I don't know about you guys, but it's just hearing that they are dissatisfied with the treatment that they receive from their supervisors. It's almost like they feel as though they are just simply a cog in a machine rather than having any level of purpose or value to the company other than being used for their labor. And so then the next part of that, I think, segues in perfectly to company culture, which is simply the values, beliefs, and overall practice standards within an organization. The thing that I find is that most companies, they primarily focus on the impact of their culture on the client rather than the culture that impacts the employee. And as you can see from Breathe, they talk about how leaders have the most influence to create an environment where communication is poor, there's too much focus on profit, and it's hyper competitive, and there's also so much focus on being micromanaging, being over the employee. I think, in my personal opinion, the challenge that I see is that with poor company culture, it not only negatively affects motivation, but it also breeds and reproduces this toxic behavior within toxic employees. Because let's be real, toxic employees do exist. It's not just the leaders that cause this negative company culture. And so when you find a company that aligns with you and you see that gossiping is okay, talking poorly about supervisors or vice versa is okay, those type of people will stay there. Fortunately, there is another option. According to Forbes, the way in which for employers to motivate employees includes: one, investing more in your employees, showing that you truly care. Second, give employees a sense of purpose. It's very important that those two are the first because they are intertwined. One of the biggest things I appreciate about some companies that I've worked with has been the fact that my supervisors have asked me in the beginning, what are your goals? Where do you want to go in your career? And I was able to set out what I wanted. And from there, they gave me actionable items that I could check off to reach certain milestones in my career that will better prepare me for where I want to go. And in that, I felt respected. I felt like I was more than just someone they were overseeing and just an employee. I think the other great thing was I was rewarded with things I enjoyed doing. Outside of just getting paid, I think being able to really participate in the things I love doing at work really changes the whole idea of how I think of work, right? And then the last, I think, is giving employees freedom and flexibility. At the end of the day, whether you're a student and you're having your first job or you're an adult, one of the big things is being able to feel as though you are trusted by your supervisor, by your team lead, whoever it is. And I think to team leads, anyone in leadership, give your people that freedom. Because if anything, if you don't trust them, that says a lot about your inability to train as a leader. And maybe that's something you should look into personally. But don't be critical of the employees. you have properly trained, unless they've given you a reason to do so. In that case, work with them, reward them when they do things right, and make sure to understand their purpose. I think it all intertwines together at the end of the day. But I think it's also important to understand the impact of making these changes. According to Business Leadership Today, it's proven that when employee motivation is increased, you also see an increase in productivity and performance. If you feel like you're motivated when you're at work, you feel like you're working towards a greater purpose outside of just yourself, why wouldn't you work harder? Why wouldn't you give your best to said company, which obviously will increase productivity, performance, and ultimately revenue for the business owner? The other part of this is going to be it produces a great company culture. When you have all of these great minds coming together, bringing their best every single day, encouraging one another, all of these things come together and create a culture that feels good to be a part of. And it makes you more competitive in the marketplace because now people want to join your team. And it also, as an employee, makes you feel great to be at that team. Think of Google. Employees at Google, they're lit to be there because they're like, wow, I get to work for Google. This is an amazing company. Or Apple. Different companies like that have such great company culture. You look at their facilities and how their employees are treated, the great benefits they have, and they work at an extremely high level. So guys, it does work. But what are y'all's thoughts? I would love to know. Do you think it applies to you at all? Thank you for joining me for another episode of Unfolded News. We'll see you guys soon. All right, bye.